Hey, how you doing? Good morning. Hopefully this is coming through well. I'm getting some stream warnings that the stream or the internet may not be as strong as it has been on the last few days. So apologies if it's a bit up and down. Hopefully it records reasonably well and we can watch it later. If not, we'll replay this again another time if it's a complete disaster. But I've moved my phone into another position. It seems to be picking up the internet a little bit better, so fingers crossed that it's coming through at a reasonable level. It might just be that my webcam freezes up a little bit, but hopefully the audio and my screen sharing comes through really, really well. Now, I'm enjoying this, I'm loving it, and it's great to see so many comments and people joining us in the live stream. So, introduce yourself, tell me where you're from, say hello, enjoy the stream. To support the channel, you can always like or comment on the video. To make sure you don't miss a video, hit the subscribe button and the get notifications button. And one other thing, if you've got photography friends that are stuck at home or looking for something to do, or you're part of a local camera club, send them the link, let them know that we're doing this live presentation every day, and let's get as many people as possible to enjoy this really positive energy that you guys are bringing to this stream. Let me have a look. I can't really see the names. They're all the way over there. I'm not going to move the phone too much, so welcome to everyone that's here with us today, and I'll have a look at questions after we do a little bit of editing. Now, some exciting news in streams coming up. Tomorrow we're going to do an hour of photo critique. I'll probably get through 10 or 12 images, I imagine, and we'll look at how to improve those images, the good parts and the parts that we can improve. Now, next week, tell me what you think about this. I'm thinking about preparing a PowerPoint presentation on the things that we can do as artists, as photographers, to improve our business and maybe even generate some income in this downtime. Okay? So I would like to run through. If that's of interest, let me know in the comments below, because I think it might be helpful to give us all something to work on to make our businesses stronger, or even if we're not a professional photographer, but we would like to maybe head in that direction or even generate a little bit of side income from photography, then maybe we can look at the avenues that we can all, start working on over the next time frame, and it'll help us mentally as well. Give us something to do, because I'm of the opinion, for me, myself, if I'm not kind of working on something, no matter how small it is or how insignificant, as long as I'm working and moving forward, I feel pretty good about things. And if I can give myself something to work on, or give you guys something to work on, that will strengthen your business and maybe generate a little income on the side. Look, I'm not talking about giving you a full income in a matter of days or weeks or months, but who knows where it could build up to. So let me know if that sounds like a good idea. Let me know if this is coming through loud and clear. You can also click the share button down below and quickly share that across to Facebook or wherever you like. But anyway, let's jump into it. Let's take a look. Let's discuss this image. This is one of my most popular images. Let me just have a quick squiz and see if anyone's telling me that it's coming through well. First time here. No one's saying it's not coming through well, so let's assume that it is. Loud and clear. Who said loud and clear? Coming through great here. Awesome. Okay, John and Cheryl and Monica are telling me it's coming through really well. Am I looking a bit orange again today? I've got a side light over there to brighten me up. I think it's turning me a bit yellow, like I'm in a tanning salon or something. Okay, one other thing before we get moving, and it's been a bit of a promotional start to this video, hasn't it? But all good stuff, hopefully, mostly free stuff I'm talking about. There's a course down below, my complete Photoshop beginner workflow. Down below, I've changed the pricing structure to pay what you want. If you can afford to pay a couple of dollars, that's much appreciated. But if you can't, you're doing it tough, type in 0 and take the course as a gift from me. Now, I don't look at who signs up and who pays what, okay? So don't be worried about that I'm going to see that you've taken or accepted my gift as a free course. I want as many people to have it as possible, because as artists, I think we can have a big role in the positivity, in sharing a positive outlook, I suppose, through our photography and our beautiful landscape images or our beautiful images of any kind. And if I can help you improve those, it's more the better, I think. So jump in there and sign up if you're interested in that. Let's talk about this one. Let's talk about this image. This is a huge breakthrough image for me on a couple of levels. It was a really successful image that I suppose helped to establish my reputation as a photographer. It was a breakout image, if you like. Look, I don't know about all that stuff, but it did win the 2014 Focus Image of the Year. It was part of a portfolio that awarded me the 2014 Emerging Australian Professional Photographer of the Year. And it has received a couple of other gold awards and whatnot throughout the years. Now, it was a huge breakthrough for me because it was the very first time. Let me give you a tiny bit of a background. I left school and was a builder, residential builder, for 17 years. And I didn't enjoy being a builder for any of those 17 years, to be honest. I could count on my hand the amount of days that I really jumped out of bed and wanted to go to work. It wasn't enjoyable. It was a way to pay the bills, pay the mortgage, all that stuff that we do in life. But the problem was I've suffered anxiety, and then that builds up and turns into depression. And it all got too much. And it got to the point where I couldn't be a residential builder anymore. So my wife and I came to the decision that we should sell everything that we own. Everything, our house, our cars, the furniture, everything in the kitchen drawers, on the shelves, the lot. We sold the lot. And pretty much what didn't sell, we had a giant skip bin, rubbish bin out the front, and we threw everything off the balcony. And we bought a caravan and a four-wheel drive, and we went traveling around Australia to allow me to take a step back and try and chase my dream of becoming a professional photographer. Now, it didn't work out to be as simple as that. I did spend 2 years traveling around Australia, but eventually I had to come home and I wasn't generating any photography income, and I'd spent all of my life savings that I'd built up over the previous 20 years. It was worth it, but I didn't have much to come back to, and we had to obviously rent a new house and buy all the furniture back, and I had to go back to being a residential builder for the time being. And life got busy. My wife was pregnant, so I put the camera down for about 6 months. Put the camera down, and that was probably the biggest, most important turning point in my photography, because it gave me 6 months to really consider how passionate I was about photography, number one. But the most important thing I considered is, what do I want my photos to look like? And I believe the most important question any artist, whether it be photographer or painter or poet, can ask themselves: what do I want my photos to say? What stories do I have to communicate through my photography? And this was the very first image that I captured and processed after picking up the camera 6 months later, considering what I wanted to do, what I wanted my photos to look like, and what I wanted them to say. Now, it didn't come to me instantly, but as I kept asking myself that question, I kept asking, well, what are the most important emotions? What are the most important things in my life? What are the things that affect me the most? And the biggest thing in my life at that particular period was dealing with anxiety and depression, unfortunately, still. Okay? That kind of built up again when I got home and had to go back to work and face reality, face real life. And if anyone's dealing with that at home, I absolutely sympathize and understand 100%. But what I decided was that was the biggest factor in my life, the biggest emotional influence in my life. So maybe I should create a body of work based on that. And I think eventually all artists, or most artists, come to that same realization. Now, the number one goal of photography, and for everyone out there, is for it to be enjoyable and fun and a great way to spend time. But often we lose our mojo, and when we lose our mojo, that's essentially our inner creative voice saying, give me more, I need more. I need more meaning, I need more purpose to this. All this hard work of getting up early in the morning and traveling around chasing and capturing photos. You know, the likes and the comments and the social approval are no longer enough. So it's time for more purpose, more meaning, and maybe more story and emotion in your photography if you've lost your mojo. And that's exactly, essentially what happened to me here. And I got it back with this series here by projecting those emotions of anxiety and depression into a series of images. And this is the title image. The title of this image is called Even in the Darkest Days. And if we were to extend that title, it's Even in the Darkest Days, there is light and hope that the storms are breaking, or something along those lines. But the shorter title is Even in the Darkest Days, there's always hope, I suppose. So we can look at this image, and I wanted it to be dark. I wanted it to feel a little isolating, maybe a little bit cold, but I also wanted that one single ray of hope to give the image hope. You know, it's a dark day, but there is always hope, and it's really appropriate, I suppose, right now that, you know, there's nothing wrong with seeing the darkness at the moment, but there is always that shining light. There's always something to help us get through, and it can be our photography that can help us get through. And if you're feeling dark, then to some degree embrace that and maybe create a dark series of images. Or if you're feeling like you want to uplift people, then go ahead and start sharing some really bright, cheerful, beautiful images of Mother Nature at its best, I suppose. You know, we can all help soothe those emotions in some way. All right, so there's a little bit of backstory. I'm sorry to ramble on a little bit about that, but I think it's important to share that because it becomes really part of the entire story and part of why I do what I do. I've got another new series which I'll share with you in the coming weeks called My Shadow, which is a deeper, darker exploration of the same themes. But the level of hope that I've managed to infuse into that series, or in fact there's two side-by-side series, one that's really deep and dark and gloomy, and then there's another one where I've collaborated with one of my all-time favourite artists, and you'll be surprised to see who that artist is when I reveal the collaboration. They're not famous, but very, very talented at infusing art with a whimsical, carefree, hopeful, joyful emotion, okay? So we've taken those two styles and combined them together, which is really, really interesting. Rambling on, aren't I? I promised we were going to edit this image. So let's do that. Any questions before we get started? I can hardly see the phone. Excuse me while I duck out to the side. Yes, I look a bit like a Simpsons character, all yellow, Bart Simpson maybe, with my spiky hair this morning. One person, Cheryl, said she loved the PowerPoint about how to generate income. Great stuff. Hopefully a couple more people are interested in that too. Look, maybe we'll just do it and see what happens. It doesn't matter. It'll only take a day or two to generate that and put it across live YouTube. All right. Throw some questions over on the live chat there. I will pick up the phone at the end of this and scroll down and say hi and look for any questions. But there's the finished product here. Let's jump back to the raw file. Okay, this is it here. Just grab, I've got a beautiful chai tea here. Hang on a second. I don't drink coffee because it freaks me out. It gives me higher anxiety. So, but chai tea seems okay for me. Okay, here's our raw file essentially. It is a TIFF file. I've imported it into Photoshop ready to go. It's a funny little edge over there. I'm just going to crop off a little bit there before we get started. That will do. Okay, now the important step, and I've mentioned this a couple of times when editing images, it's important to identify the interesting areas within the image, if you like. So for this particular image, and it's not, I don't think it's exactly the same raw file, to be honest. The other one had a slightly different foreground, but that's okay. Excuse me. It's important to identify the important areas. So in this image, the important areas to me are the subject here, this subject right here, and the ray of hope that we're going to put down here. We're going to add in a bit of light coming down in this direction. Okay, so let's do that. So we're going to add some light, add some color, add some contrast to the main subject, and then we're going to do the opposite. Maybe remove some light and darken down the outsides, these sections around here, remove some contrast and remove some of this weird color cast that we've got going on. So initially, let's go ahead and duplicate the background layer, Command or Control J, and we'll do a color correction. Up to the image menu, mode, no, not mode, adjustments, match color, and we'll click neutralize. Yeah, is it better? Maybe slightly. It's gone a bit pinkish, hasn't it? It's taken a little bit of the blue out, but we'll run with it for now. It's maybe slightly more neutral, but it hasn't done a great job this time around. Okay, let's just double check that the horizon is straight. Click on the crop tool here. Click on the straighten icon, the little builder's level up there, and we will click and hold the mouse across the horizon like so. In fact, I've just noticed something strange. This mustn't be the original raw file, because if you've been to Camel Rock, there's the little town of Bermagui across here, which I've already removed. Okay, so for the eagle eyes watching along, yes, you're right. That already has been removed, Bermagui. Okay, let's keep on going. That looks good. Dust removal. I don't think there's any dust. We won't run through dust removal. Let's add a curves layer and do an auto curves adjustment and see what that looks like. Curves. Click the auto button. Not bad, not bad. Hold down Option or Alt, click auto again. Let's just flick through, roll through these. That enhanced per channel contrast has a nice cooler color feel to it. I think that one does too. That one's really bright and we're starting to lose the detail in our highlights, so maybe not. That's not bad. I think I like one of these two. That one. Fine dark and light colors. Let's see what snap neutral midtones does. Adds a little bit of green. We won't add that little bit of green. We'll click OK. Perfect. So that's workflow step 2. Workflow step 1, and you'll see all this in the what is essentially a free course, or pay whatever you like down in the comments below. Step 1 is the raw file conversion, where we convert our raw file into a Photoshop friendly file. Step 2 was the series of tasks we just completed, where we correct the file. We do a color correction, straighten horizon, dust removal, and auto curves. Step 3, which we're going to get into now, and keep in mind within the course I do it much slower. I've got to keep the tempo up for YouTube, otherwise it gets very boring for all of you guys. But if you want to go through slower, the course is down there and free if you like. Step 3 is where we add the wow factor, the impact, and really make our subject stand out. Step 4 is my file saving technique to make sure we save our files as safely as possible. Step 5 is exporting our files for web, and then in the more advanced courses, print, etc., etc. Okay, this is workflow step 3. Let's add some light and contrast into our subject here. So we come down and select a curves layer. Curves, pretty simple. We're going to lighten up one point in the middle and just drag up, just like that. Command or Control I to invert the mask to black, which will hide our adjustment behind a black mask. Opacity around 30% is going to be good. Flow at 50%. Our hardness at 0. And a white brush, as you can see over on the left here. And we can just click. Now the key to a lot of Photoshop editing is don't try and paint inside the lines. Just kind of broadly do a lot of your adjustments. If you do need to paint inside the lines, we will use a much tighter mask, a much more accurate mask, using maybe a quick selection tool or a blend if or something like that. But for most of my editing, it's just using a soft brush and just clicking around like that. Pretty straightforward. See how we've just lifted that, given that a little bit more light and brightness, and we can start to maybe generate a little bit of that light coming from this area too. And if there's light coming from here, it will hit the subject, but it will also hit behind the subject, like so. Perfect. Okay, let's add a little bit of directional light. The thing I love about shooting overcast conditions like this is the shadow and the light are not too harsh. So I can now create a bit of side light myself in Photoshop, whereas if I shot in the middle of the day with harsh sunlight, the shadows and the highlights would be pretty much set in concrete and we wouldn't be able to do that much. But with these overcast conditions, we can. Let's add another curves layer. Once again, we're going to brighten up. Just like that. Once again, Command or Control I to invert. Let's zoom in a little. The light's coming from the top right here. That's what we want to infer. And so what we're going to do is I'm just going to paint this side a little like that. And we can bleed that off. To zoom in and out, we press Command or Control plus and minus. Okay, so bleed that out like that. Again, this side should be getting a little bit more light. Bleed that off a little like that. Just a couple of clicks. And then the light's coming down behind here and probably just touching on the back of that one. And then as I said, it's probably also touching out the back here. Perfect. Let's add some shadow on the other side of that subject. Curves layer. One point in the middle. Drag down. That looks pretty good. You'll notice I don't drag down too much in one go. I'd prefer to do 2 adjustments than do one big one. Command or Control I for invert. We haven't changed our brush. We still have the same brush. And look at this. We'll just paint a bit, just rough, just down in here like this. And we can also let that bleed out a little bit. It won't do any damage. Look at that. We could also maybe cast a bit of shadow down through here on the water. Okay. Just a little hint like that, maybe a little bit there. Looking good. I actually want to, as a car zooms past, I actually want to add a little bit more light. And this will change every time I edit. Sometimes I get a bit more light the first go and I don't need to edit more, but my eye is telling me we can still do with a bit more light on the light side of the subject. Once again, curves layer. And by adding light and dark, you might ask, why are you darkening the subject? Well, actually what we're doing is we're adding light and dark on both sides of the subject, which adds a contrast point, which is also interesting, which will draw our viewers, our audience into that subject, which is important. Command or Control I, same brush. That's better. Okay, so we're starting to get a really nice bright sort of coming down there. That's looking good. If I press X, see how there's almost a bit of a cloud that looks like it could be a hole there. If I come back down to this really bright one here, this adjustment layer, Curves 2, I'm now just going to use a black brush. And I might darken that down in a minute. Okay, I'm just pushing that back a bit to allow that sunspot or that stream of light to come in from behind those clouds there. Okay, clicking back up on the top layer, a little bit more, with a white brush, a little bit more light there, little bit more light there. That looks good. Let's add just a normal contrast boost now, okay, into that subject. Curves layer. So we've added our light and we've also added directional light. Actually, before I do that, we are going to click curves layer, but I might darken down the shadow side just a fraction more. This time, rather than pulling from the middle, like so, like that, which I could do, it's not doing any damage, but to create shadows, often pulling down from here is a better option. Okay, what that will do is lower contrast and darken at the same time, whereas pulling from the middle will darken but add contrast. See how contrasty the image gets? A lot of contrast. See how flat the image gets when I do this? Okay, so shadows, and you might have seen this in the nighttime tutorial where we changed from day to night the other day. We used that same technique to create a nighttime effect. Command or Control I, and once again, we just paint a little bit of shadow down there. Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. And we might even, you can see I've kind of bled that out, but it looks horrible to be honest in that sky. So we'll use that blend if technique. It's a little bit more of an advanced technique. And I'll try and keep this as simple as possible, but blend if is very, very good. And I do teach it in my courses, but it's not until the intermediate and advanced courses. If we double click on the blank space next to where it says curve 6, we get blend if here. Forget about this layer, the top slider, we don't need it. And all we need to do is grab one of these sliders and see what's happening. You can see when I grab the black slider, it's removing it from the shadows first. Can you see that on screen? But if I grab the white one, watch it, it'll pull it out of the sky, tidy that up. How good is that? Okay, hold down Option or Alt, split that off to give me a feather. I've now managed to put that shadow on without affecting the sky at all. Absolutely phenomenal, that tool. All right, now let's add some contrast. Curves layer. I think we'll just do normal contrast initially. 1 point, about a quarter in from the top and bottom. The bottom one goes down a fraction, the top one goes up a fraction. Again, adding contrast is very, very interesting. So we'll add that mainly to the areas where we want the interest to go. Command or Control I, invert to black, as we do with every layer pretty much. And just with our soft brush, we'll just put a little bit around here. That's looking quite nice. Okay, let's do the reverse. Let's start drawing attention into the middle by removing attention from the extreme edges. Okay. Once again, curves layer, and we'll darken down using this more lower contrast darkening effect like that nighttime effect if you like, and it will give us a lovely black foggy effect, you know, that dark fog which will give us that. Now when we're trying to, actually this has reminded me of something, when we're trying to infuse our images with a story or emotions, we have those same 3 tools to use. In fact, we've got 4 tools, the same ones that draw attention to our subject. Light, contrast, color, and detail. Now, if we ask ourselves, if we're trying to create a happy image, do we make a brighter image or a darker image? And I think you can all answer that question pretty simply. Brighter, in my opinion. If we're trying to make a dark, gloomy, depressing image, we go darker. And then contrast. High contrast, or lots of contrast, is very, very exciting, gets the heart pumping, gets the heart racing. Low contrast is fairly flat, so the opposite of heart racing is that kind of dour, dreary feeling, if you like. Okay? So anxiety can get the heart pumping, so we might have areas of heart pumping excitement in this image, and then areas of that dour flatness for the depression. Okay? And this tends, you know, combinations of different things and how we use the light, the contrast and the color can vary the story or the emotion that our image contains within it. Same with color. If you want a light, bright, airy image, you might go for light, bright, warm colors, yellow, oranges and peachy, bright colors like that, those really warm colors. But if you want something dark and intimidating and a bit spooky and a bit depressing, let's call it that for lack of a better word, you know, your blues and your greens and your colder colors are going to work a little bit better, I feel. And then you have detail. So detail is interesting, and it's only something I've grasped this last 12 months because my latest series that I'll show you in the coming weeks is pretty much all blurry. And detail as far as storytelling is a bit like the difference between a dictionary definition of a tree and a poetic definition of a tree, for example. And I'll explain that a little bit better, hopefully, to give you a grasp. Our imaginations are incredibly adept at making up stories when there's a lack of information. So if we give our audience all the information through a high definition image, they don't have to use their imagination very much because it's all presented there, you know, a beautiful river or a rainforest, and it's all pixel perfect definition. Well, our viewer will see a river or a rainforest. But if I capture a blurry, dark image, my audience is much more likely to interpret that with the story of their own. It's much like aerial photography. Abstract aerial photography is so popular and does so well in competitions because it allows the judges to interpret and see faces and see shapes and see trees that aren't really there. They're really just abstract shapes and colors. But they love that level of interpretation. And I think a lot of our audience a lot of people in general like filling in the dots. It gives us a sense of achievement to add a story to an image of our own making, if you like. And let me allow you just to give you one little anecdote. If we all jump on, well, let's just go complete fantasy here, and if we all go shark diving, there's a little place in Australia, in South Australia, called Port Lincoln, where you can go shark diving with great white sharks, the most potentially dangerous predator in the ocean, I suppose, at least from the animal world. And we all jump on a boat and we go cruising out, and let's add a degree of difficulty, and we're going to do it at night time. We're going to go shark diving at night time. It's okay, everyone's going to get a waterproof torch. We get out to the reef, and the instructor, the captain, says, look, I've got the shark tracker on. There's no sharks around and there's not enough cages for everyone. So let's just put on our dive gear and we'll just jump in initially and just test everything, make sure it's all working. And then when the sharks come, we'll get in the cage. It's all right. I've got torches, and if anyone sees a shark, scream out and we'll all get out of the water. Okay, so we're all going to jump in at night time in the water where the great white sharks are, in the dark with a torch. You get where I'm going here? How long is it going to take for our imagination to see that shark and get everyone out of the water? Our imagination is going to create that shark whether it's there or not. And that's the power of removing some of the detail from our images, because our audience will then create the story for themselves, and the story will be more powerful because it's been created specifically for the person that is viewing the image. I hope that kind of makes sense. It's a really interesting and exciting concept for me to explore. So have a think about exploring that as well. Side tangent. I'm loving a side tangent today, aren't I? I hope it's still coming through loud and clear. Anyway. We've darkened down that image. Let's press Command or Control I to invert. We've got our brush here. I'll make that brush a little bigger, and we're going to just move around the outside here. Something like that. Maybe I could press X. And we could just leave a little bit of a light sort of gateway drawing us in there. That's looking pretty good for now. Let's remove a little bit of color from the extreme edges as well. This time, hue saturation layer. Drop the saturation down. Let's go really aggressive, all the way down. So we now have a black and white image, but we will press Command or Control I to invert that back and hide that behind a black mask. And with our white brush, let's remove a lot of this blue. Don't have to remove it all. We're going to take a lot of it out. I hope you're still there with me. I don't even know if the stream's dropped out or what's going on because I can't see the phone. Anyway, maybe I'm talking to myself. That's okay. I will also remove a lot of the golden color from these rocks because it's not really part of the story. I prefer that dark grey fogginess, which really adds to the feeling that I'm trying to get here. Okay, let's darken down the edges a little bit more. Curves. Might do a combination of both there. Command or Control I to invert. See that little white spot there? I would call that a tonal distraction. It's something that doesn't add to the story, so it really doesn't need to be there. So let's just remove that out of there. Okay, I want to darken down a little bit more because you can see this side is really dark. This side, it does fade back, but I think I'm at least going to try and darken a little bit more over the right here. Yeah, that looks better. Once again, Command or Control invert. I'm also going to come back to my hue saturation layer. I can see a little bit of blue here. I don't want that there and there. A little bit there, which is distracting. A little bit there too. Okay, that's looking quite nice. Back to my top layer, which was darkening, of course. Let's darken that rock off and that rock off a little bit more. Let's work on this stream as a leading line. Curves. We'll brighten it up because that gives it more attention, doesn't it? Command or Control I. Just in there like so. Perfect. There's a little brownish color in here. I'm going to remove that too. Again, it doesn't add to anything in my image that I really like. Once again, I'll just desaturate everything. Command or Control I. And we'll just run across with a small brush through here. That's better. I think it was just seaweed or something. Let's add a little bit of color into our main subject here. So first of all, we will add a hue saturation layer and just boost saturation a little like that. Command or Control I to invert. Boost up those oranges. Boost up those blues there. And let's add a little bit more color. I would like the base of these rocks to be a little bit more intense in their color. The way we're going to do that is with a solid color layer. And I want to choose like an orangish, a burnt orange like that. It's just a guess. Click OK. I'm going to shift this over to soft light. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Let's run with that. Click on the mask, Command or Control I, and I'll lower my opacity because these solid color layers come on really strong. Just something like that. Let's do the same for that teal water in front of the rocks there, or around the rocks. Solid color. Is teal a color? I think it is. Is that like kind of aqua? Let's call it aqua. Aqua. Click OK. Once again, soft light. I'm not sure if this is right, but we'll invert the mask. Click on the mask, Command or Control I. That's a bit much, isn't it? If I double click on that aqua colored square, I can just play with the color here a little bit. Even no, green's not nice. Deep blue, well maybe. I think I do like that more aqua-y color. Yeah, that's quite nice. I think I need a little bit of light just around here. As the light comes down, it's going to spray across into the background a little more than what I'm currently showing. Command or Control I. Okay, and I think that's, I probably need a cup of tea, and it's not as refined as the original, absolutely. The original would have taken me months of tweaking and turning and tweaking and back and forth and tweaking the colors and the light and varying from here to there. You can see that there's a lot more refinement and a lot more emotion. In fact, it's got this kind of black fog over there. Let's add that sense of black fog. The way I did that originally was a solid color layer in a dark charcoal like that. Click OK. And then I just lowered the opacity and painted that in at various levels. I probably don't need quite that much. So if we invert that mask, and most of this will go around the outside, I'll lower up that opacity again. See, you get this beautiful grey fogginess. A little bit across there too. Maybe we could do one more of those in a slightly different color, like a darker charcoal like that. Once again, invert that. Okay, bit better. You'll also notice I stretched my subject vertically in the finished product, and I'll save that for another tutorial on another day. Let me grab the phone. Keep in mind the majority of those techniques that I just showed you and that workflow is within the Pay What You Like course down below. There's only a couple of things that are not in there, and that is the use of solid color, but you can pick that up from here if you don't want to move along. Of course, the intermediate and advanced courses have, you know, advanced selections and blend if and a whole bunch of other things, but join the free course and see what you like first. See if you enjoy my teaching style and then go from there. Let me grab the phone. Hopefully we're not going to drop out. Hopefully it's still been broadcasting this entire time. See if there's any questions. Yeah. Tom Putt's here. I love pink, he says. He's got that incredible pink hat. Tom Putt does some incredible live stuff on YouTube, live workshops. Jump over on, I'm not on YouTube. He does have a YouTube channel, check it out. But on Facebook, he's been doing live streaming some evenings with his workflow. So jump over, look up the Tom Putt Gallery or Tom Putt on Facebook, and you'll get some more free workshop content like I'm delivering here. So check him out as well. We've got Vicky from Georgia. We've got, is it Declan, Mako DC from, I think he was from, where are you from, Declan? Ireland? We've got Gay back, Sue Ellen. Sue Ellen is an incredible illustrative photographer. I'm a little bit nervous and embarrassed that these incredible photographers are watching along here. We've got John, we've got Stephen, Sam, Gail, Di, Grant, and one question before you finish. In Lightroom, develop module at the bottom is soft proofing. What does that do? I don't know. I'm not a real Lightroom guru, and I'm not going to try and make something up. I'll go and Google that and answer that question tomorrow. How about that? I can do that for you. Let me just scroll back up here. Who have we got? Tom Putt, you're the best, mate. You are the best. We got Peter from Warrnambool, Kim Bradley, Graham Gall. Yes, PowerPoint on how to maybe use this time that we have to generate some stronger business income streams maybe, or build our profile, or all that kind of stuff. I'm going to put that together in a YouTube. I think it'll be maybe a two-part series. I've already got a PowerPoint that I can modify for that on that theme. Sonia, Anthony, William, Stephen Algie, again, another super talented. I'm sure there's more talented photographers. And as I said, you know, drop me an email and let me know your Instagram. A couple of people have done that and I've had a look and very impressive. All right, I don't think there was any other questions. I'm going to leave it there. Once again, share this with your camera clubs, photography friends. If you enjoyed it, give me a like. If you don't want to miss out on tomorrow's, what are we doing tomorrow? We're doing photo critique tomorrow. And tomorrow I'm going to give you a way to submit your images for photo critique next week as well. If you don't want to miss out, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications button. That's about it. If you want to learn Photoshop, jump down, have a look below. Other than that, take care, stay safe. My love to your family, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks once again. Bye for now.